An introduction to anatomy and physiology. This video is going to start with definitions describing the relationship between structure and function.
Anatomy is the study of body structures and their relationships to one another. There are different subdivisions of anatomy. We could study gross anatomy, which is the study of all the large structures that are visible to the naked eye. We could study surface anatomy, which is the study of the structures that are visible without making any cuts, without slicing up or sectioning the body. We can study the surface anatomy. And systemic anatomy is the study of structures that work together to perform a common function. Here we see the cardiovascular system, which includes several different organs, including the heart, which provides the pumping action to move blood through the blood vessels. The heart and blood vessels work together to perform a common function of delivering nutrients throughout the body and removing waste from the body. The circulatory system, or the cardiovascular system, is a collection of organs that work together for a common function. Systemic anatomy is the approach of studying the structure of organs that are working together to form a common function. Here on the left, we can see an image of the human brain. The gross anatomy of the nervous system would include studying the structures visible to the naked eye, such as the specific lobes of the brain. We can see here the temporal lobe, frontal lobe, parietal lobe, and occipital lobe are all major regions of the brain. And we could also study microscopic anatomy of the nervous system. We could slice the brain and look at it under a microscope. Microscopic anatomy is the study of small structures that cannot be seen with the naked eye, that we can only study with magnification. Here in the image, we can see neuron cells, the cells that are important for signaling, sending communication rapidly through the nervous system. And if we study the structure of an individual neuron cell and the various internal structures inside of a cell called organelles, then we're studying cytology, or the study of cell structure. However, multiple cells work together, and there are different types of cells performing related functions in order to work together within an organ. And we call this collection of different cells working together a tissue. The study of tissues is called histology. Here we can see another image showing nervous tissue, and we can see there are several different types of cells found in nervous tissue. There are neurons as well as glial cells, and different types of glial cells like astrocytes, microglial cells, and oligodendrocytes. And all of these cells are working together as a tissue, and the study of the tissue structure is known as histology. The study of cell structure is known as cytology. We could magnify even further and look way deep inside of a cell and see the structures inside of a cell. These large structures inside of a cell are called organelles. Here we can see an illustration of a specific organelle called a mitochondria, which is found inside of cells. And we can only view structures this small, as the mitochondria and the membranes the inner and outer membranes that form the mitochondria. In order to see this much detail, we need to use a special microscope called an electron microscope. The image on the right here is a picture taken with an electron microscope, allowing us to see the mitochondria inside of a cell magnified 236,000 times from its normal size. With our light microscopes, we won't be able to see anything more than about 1,000 times magnification. And so we won't be able to see this much detail with light microscopes. However, we will study some basic cytology and we'll study lots of histology using the light microscopes in the laboratory. So anatomy is the study of biological structures. Physiology is the study of the function of those structures. So the study of how the body works, how the structures of the human body function is physiology. People used to think that the heart was the region of the body, the structure in the body that was important for consciousness, for thought, for processing sensory information and responding to that information. And it was thought that the brain served a function of regulating the temperature of the blood. Modern research has led us to a different perspective, showing us that the function of the brain is sensation and the control of movement. And the heart is important for pumping blood throughout the body. So the heart has the function of pumping blood through blood vessels in order to provide nutrients to cells all through the body and remove waste from those cells. And the heart's pumping action can be demonstrated if someone has loss of heart function, if they have a heart attack and their heart stops beating. Then we can see that the pressure inside of their blood vessels will decrease and blood will stop being pumped through the body. This loss of function approach is often how we've learned the function of biological structures. Similarly, if someone has a stroke, that is a loss of blood supply to part of the brain, then we can see an impairment in sensation or the control of movement. Some aspect of the cognitive functions that the brain performs will be impaired if there's damage to the brain. A grand theme in the field of anatomy and physiology is that structure determines function. We have an example here of the elbow joint. The elbow joint is where the humerus and ulna come together, forming a hinge joint. The region of the humerus that fits into the ulna is called the trochlea, which is at the distal end of the humerus. So the humerus, your arm bone, the distal end is the end out near the elbow, and the distal end has a surface and a surface that articulates or forms a joint with the ulna, and that surface is called the trochlea of the humerus. And the trochlea of the humerus fits tightly into the ulna, a region of the ulna that has a notch shape known as the semilunar notch or the trochlear notch, because the trochlea of the humerus fits into this notch. It's often called the trochlear notch. And the tight fit between these bones restricts motion but enables motion as well. The tight fit enables motion to flex and extend the elbow. The way that you're used to being able to move the elbow is flexion and extension through the sagittal plane. Other motion is restricted, so we can't perform rotation of the elbow. We can't perform adduction and abduction of the elbow. There's very limited ability to rotate and move the elbow in other directions, except for the one motion of flexion and extension. The structure of the elbow joint determines the range of motion, determines the function of the elbow.